Yeah, good evening. Anushka, Godavari, Sneha, Deepshika, Ankush, Patarbinda, Ragini, Hemalata, Smriti. Yeah, good evening, all of you. Am I audible and visible? Sankarshana, audible and visible together. Okay. Yuksen, Shankarshana, Ankush. Right. So let some more people join in and then I'll begin. Sakshi, Brajneet. So good evening once again. Welcome to Byju's. Today I'll be starting with ancient India. I'll be giving you an overview of ancient Indian history, and then once I finish ancient India, we'll go on to other segments, medieval India and art and culture. So, if I might ask you, when did you last study history apart from UPSC? Okay, Deepshika says she hasn't studied ancient Indian history after class 6. So, it doesn't matter, Deepshika. Most of the students would have studied history in class 10. Yeah, Ankush also says the same thing. Godavari says 10 standard. Great. Pritham up to 10th standard. Yeah, most of the students would have studied history last in the 10th standard. Okay, Sakshi has a history as a subject in college, right? Fine, great. Okay, Pihu is studying humanities in class 12. Okay, great. Um, yeah, Sankarshana, that will be notified to you. I myself don't know. I myself don't know what is happening. So it will be shortly notified to you. Yeah, Udayarani, good evening. Deemare. So last 2 years. Um, right. So let's talk about ancient Indian history. Syed, I think modern India has already been covered for you as far as I know, my knowledge goes. I was told modern India has been covered. Is it true? Evening batch? Udayarani says yes. Yeah, Roshan, yes. Good evening, Lakshmi. Yeah, great. So, so it has been covered. Modern India has been covered. Um, yeah. So I have been given the responsibility of handling ancient, medieval, and art and culture for the evening batch. So, so let's begin. Before I begin, I give a generally an overview of history. Yeah, Sridevi, namaskar. So before I begin, what is history? Hello, can we start with that such a basic information? What is history? Hello, what is history? What is history? Study of human past, record of past. Okay, so that means okay, Sankarshana. Okay, Sankarshana is right. Record of past actions, archives, study of past events. Sankarshana says all those happenings of past which have written records. Okay, Sankarshana is right. Now look here. So history is a study of the past in colloquial terms, in common language terms. But then all those happenings of the past which have been recorded and understood is history. So let us define history here. All those happenings of the past. So what is history? All those happenings of the past which have been written down. So we have written records. So all those happenings of the past which have been written down and understood. So we have written records, and those written records are understood by us. We are able to read and understand. Okay, so all those happenings of the past which have been written down and understood is history, right? Now, let us take an example. We have the Ashokan edicts. We have we have the edicts of Ashoka. Now, when I come to Mauryan Empire, we'll talk about it. What are edicts? Edicts are royal messages. Understand this? Edicts are royal messages. Ashoka got his royal messages or edicts inscribed or written on the surface of rocks, pillars, and caves. They're called rock edicts, pillar edicts, and cave edicts. And generally, Ashoka uses Brahmi script and Prakrit language. He uses 3 languages and 4 scripts. We'll not go into the details. When we come to Mauryan chapter, I'll talk about it in detail. But as of now, just understand this much, that in most parts of India, he uses 1 script and 1 language. He uses the Brahmi script. Ashoka uses the Brahmi script and Prakrit language. And the Prakrit language. And the Brahmi script was deciphered by James Prinsep. James Prinsep, an officer of the East India Company, deciphered the Brahmi script sometime in 1837 or so. So in the early part of the 19th century, he deciphered the Ashokan Brahmi script. He was able to read the script. So that is history. All those happenings of the past, which have been written down and understood, is history. So once the Brahmi script was decoded or written down, we are able to understand what Ashoka was trying to convey to his people and sometimes to his officers. Sridevi, current events, affairs, history-related, art and culture-related will be covered in the webinar. So last month we had a webinar, had covered relevant topics. This month again on the 18th, we have a webinar on art and culture. So I will be handling, we'll be discussing some topics relevant to the last 1 month up to 17th or 16th of this month, right? From the last webinar till the present webinar. Script is what you write, Shailaja. Script is the written records. Language is what we speak, and script is the one which is written down. Got it, Shailaja? Thank you, Shankarshana. It will be notified to you. Don't worry. Don't lose your patience. Keep preparing, and the pending topics of art and culture will be covered very soon, right? So we'll come back here. So here, what is history? All those happenings of the past which have been written down and understood is history. And I gave you an example, Ashokan edicts. Generally, they are in the Brahmi script and the Prakrit language. And in 1837, James Prinsep, an officer of the East India Company, deciphered or decoded the Ashokan Brahmi. He was able to read it. And once he was able to read it, we are able to understand what Ashoka was trying to convey. That is called history, right? Then what is prehistory? Use your common sense. What is prehistory? So so all those happenings of the past which I have written down and understood is history. What is prehistory then? What is prehistory? If history is all the is about written records, what is prehistory? Non-recorded. Very good. So we do not have any written records, right? So we do not have any written records. That is prehistory. So we rely on archaeology. We rely on archaeology for the reconstruction of this period of history. We rely entirely on archaeology for the reconstruction of the period of this period of history as such. So man used to live in caves. Early man, the Stone Age man used to live in caves. He has painted on the walls of some caves. We find paintings, but that did not make him illiterate. So we rely entirely on archaeology to reconstruct that period of history. Therefore, it is called prehistory. Man had no knowledge of writing, so we rely on archaeology to reconstruct that period of history. That's called prehistory. Very good. Archaeology is that part of history where you studied about the past. That is when there are no written records. So we piece together on the basis of excavations, artifacts, whatever things early man used. So from all those things, a history of the early man is recreated, right? A lot of conjecture, intelligent guesswork is used, apart from the collection of artifacts. We come to know what type of life early man could have lived or used, right? That is archaeology, right? Did you get me that? Now we'll come back here. So we have discussed history, we have discussed prehistory. Then what is proto-history? Students, what is proto-history? Proto-history. What is proto-history? Literary records are there, but we're not able to decipher it. Very good. So we have written records. We have written records, but we're not able to read them, understand them. For example, so proto-history is we have written records, but we're not able to understand or read them. So all those happenings of the past for which we have written records, but we are not able to read or understand them. For example, we have the Harappan script. We have the Harappan script. The Harappans knew how to read and write. So they had a script. But whatever the Harappans wrote, we are not able to read it. We are not able to understand it. We are not able to read it because it is yet to be deciphered. That comes under the category of proto-history, right? Yeah, Kavya, did you get me that? So what is history? All those happenings of the past which have been written down and understood is history. I repeat, history is all those happenings of the past which have been written down and understood. So we have written records of the past events and we are able to read and understand them. Example is Ashokan edicts. Then prehistory, we do not have any written records. And therefore, we rely on archaeology to reconstruct that period of history. Proto-history is what? Proto-history is we have written records, but we're not able to read it. We're not able to read and understand them. That is called proto-history. So we start with basics of history. You know, people have last studied history in school days, 6th standard, 10th standard. So go back to your NCERT books, right? It all depends how much time you have. Are you writing the exam, most of you, this year? In a few, I think on May, when is the exam? May 26th? Are you writing the exam, most of you? Or is it you're preparing for the next year? June 16th. Okay, it has been postponed. Yeah, it has been postponed. Okay, June 16th. So some people are writing in the next year, 2025. So you have extra time. So I'll give you a suggested. I'll give you a book list. I'll give you a book list, suggested readings later. Right. So a lot of time is there for people who are preparing for next year or next to next year. But there are also people who are preparing for this year. So accordingly, we will discuss and we'll have a plan later. I'll give you a plan. Yeah, we'll come back here. So history, prehistory, proto-history. Then what is numismatics? Numismatics. Numismatics. Study of coins. Very good. Study of coins. The study of coins is called numismatics. Study of coins. Then what is epigraphy? Epigraphy. Epigraphy. Garima, not maps. Epigraphy. Study of inscriptions. Very good. Study of inscriptions. Epigraphy is study of inscriptions. Study of inscriptions. Then what is paleography? What is paleography? What is paleography? Inscription is, you have records either written on stone or copper plates. That's called inscription. So inscription is that. So a king or somebody wants to convey some message, he gets it written down on a surface. Either it could be a stone or it could be a copper plate, like that. That is called inscription, right? So paleography. What is paleography? Study of old writing used in inscriptions. Study of old writing used in inscriptions. Paleography is study of old writing. Study of old writing used in inscriptions. So these are some of the fundamentals of history, prehistory, proto-history, epigraphy, numismatics, paleography, etc. So these such information you'll get in your NCERT book, 6th standard onwards. So go back to your NCERT, right? 6th standard onwards, 6th to 12th. You read your history books. People who are preparing for next year, next to next year. So you have a lot of time to get your fundamentals, basics strong. So, Prism, why do institutes all over India recommend studying NCERT books? Any idea? Hello? Yeah, study of old writing used in inscriptions. That's called paleography. Any idea? Prehistory is, Kavya, we do not have any written records. That period of history when man had no knowledge of writing, right? That is called prehistory. So here we rely on archaeology to reconstruct that period of history. That's called prehistory. Basics are cleared. Fundamentals have basic knowledge in NCERT. NCERT is the base of UPSC. Okay, fine. Why? See, many of the students are from state board. Many of the students are of state board. Many students are from ICSE, CBSE board. So as you can understand, the level of difficulty of the textbook is different. In a state board, it is presumed that the level of difficulty is lesser compared to NCERT and ICSE syllabus or CBSE and ICSE syllabus. So to make up that, institutes all over India tell you to read NCERT books. If you've already done your NCERT, ICSE syllabus or CBSE syllabus, you just revise those books. Yeah, what you have studied in your school days, you please revise them. And people who have not studied ICSE and CBSE syllabus, you go through it fresh in a few months, 1 or 2 months. You take out some time and thoroughly read those books. So whatever you have lost in your school days, you make it up in a few months' time. So read all the basic books, history, economy, constitution, geography, etc. So you're on par with the other students who have conventionally studied CBSE and ICSE syllabus, right? So that's the reason. So that your fundamentals are strong, your basics are strong. You cannot build a superstructure on a weak foundation, isn't it? So you need to have a strong foundation. So it is presumed that people from state board have a weak foundation. So you get your basics right. We are not saying that you are not smart or intelligent. We're not saying that. What we're trying to say is you clear your basics. You become strong with the basics so that then you can build a very firm and strong foundation. Right. That's the reason why institutes recommend reading NCERT or CBSE, ICSE books. You please revise them, people who have already done those syllabus. Now we'll come back here. So you have these topics in ancient Indian history, Stone Age, right? So I'll give you an overview, a bird's eye view of ancient Indian history. So today I'll be spending a lot of time on this. Generally, I spend a lot of time on this overview. So once you listen to the overview, the flow of history, how history flows from ancient to from the Stone Age to the post-Gupta period, then you'll get that connection. You'll get the flow, you'll get the connection, and then you can understand when you read textbooks, when you listen to class, you know what is coming next because you already listened to the overview, right? So that is my way of presenting the subject. So please give me your cooperation and support. Every teacher has his own way of teaching the subject, presenting the subject. So it varies from teacher to teacher, and I have my own unique method. Generally, students have appreciated it and they have liked it. So let us see how you feel at the end of this session, right? So we'll come back here, Stone Age. So first of all, the first chapter we study would be Stone Age. So let us make it interactive. Yeah, let us make it interactive. Now, what is Stone Age? So whoever can answer, please answer. So that always have a pen and a paper with you. Have a pen and a paper with you. Keep jotting down so that you're not just physically present, you're also mentally present in the class. So I'm not able to see you, but then we'll try to make it interactive. So keep jotting down and then go back and revise in your free time. So what is Stone Age? Why is it called Stone Age? Use of stones was primary. Stone is used. Uh, okay, thank you, Garima. Period where man used stones for tools. Very good, Godavari. Okay, Ankush. Okay, so here it is called Stone Age because, as most of you have answered correctly here, all the tools and implements, understand this, all the tools and implements or instruments, all the tools, implements, or instruments used by early man, were made of stone. They were made of stone. Hence, it is called Stone Age. Okay, all the tools and implements or instruments used by early man were made of stone, hence called Stone Age. Right? Now, the Stone Age is divided into three parts, three phases. Stone Age is divided into three phases. So what are the three phases? Paleolithic, Paleolithic, Paleolithic Age. Number two, Mesolithic Age. Smriti says Catholic. Smriti, By mistake, you have typed Catholic. Okay, so Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and number 3, Neolithic. Right? And then we have one more, Chalcolithic. Yeah. Now we'll come back here. So we have Paleolithic age, Mesolithic age, Neolithic age. So Stone Age is divided into basically 3 phases: Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, and we have one more, Chalcolithic. Now, what is Paleolithic age? Understand this. I'm just a bird's eye view of the topic of ancient India. So Paleo means old. Paleo means old. Lithic means stone. So this is called Old Stone Age. Then Meso is what? Meso is middle. Meso means middle. And Lithic is stone. So this is called Middle Stone Age. Neo is new. And Lithic is stone. So this is called New Stone Age. So Old Stone Age, Middle Stone Age, New Stone Age. Right? Now, let me ask you a question. On what basis have historians divided the Stone Age into Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic? On what basis have historians divided the Stone Age into Paleolithic, Mesolithic, and Neolithic? Anybody? Types of tools, sharpness of tools, advancement of stone use structure. Okay, Hemalata. Development of tools used by people. Krishika. Okay, quality of stone, not quality of stone. Probably Sridevi meant, Shailaja meant, the gradual improvement in tool making technology. Understand this? On the basis of gradual improvement in tool making technology. So on that basis, the Stone Age has been divided into Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. On the basis of what? Gradual improvement or gradual advancement in stone gradual improvement in technology. Okay. On the basis of gradual improvement in technology. So, for example, initially, understand this, initially the stones were very crude. See this? Imagine the stone was like this, a very, very crude, blunt. So this is not a very effective weapon. So, but in course of time, through observation, experimentation, a man began to make much more effective tools. So let us say this is a blunt, this is number one. So he has used this type of stone for many hundreds and thousands of years, and he began to sharpen them. So let us say he began to make it like this. So he gave it a point. Okay. So this is a much more effective weapon when compared to a blunt stone, right? So it took him many millennia, thousands of years to make improvement in this type of tool building technology. So on the basis of gradual improvement in tool making technology, um, and on the basis of gradual improvement in tool making technology, Stone Age is divided to Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. Tool making technology. Okay, are you clear? Advancement in tool making. Right. So what we need to study, understand this, what you need to study in this chapter is how was man's life in the Paleolithic age? What is important from the exam point of view? Right? What is important from the exam point of view? How was man's life in the Paleolithic age? So we'll discuss that. And then the type of tools he used. So historians, archaeologists have found tools. They have given some names to these tools. Like, for example, hand axes, cleavers, choppers, blades, burins, etc. So archaeologists have given names to these tools. So where are the Paleolithic tools found? So what are the different types of tools used by Paleolithic man, and what are the sites or places where these have been found? So sites or places in India where they have been found. And how was Paleolithic man's life like? Right? This is what is important from the exam point of view. Then we come to the second stage, that is Mesolithic age. So how was the Mesolithic age different from the Paleolithic age? How was man's life in the Mesolithic age, and how was it different from the Paleolithic age? What are the type of tools used by the Mesolithic man, and what are the places or sites where such tools have been found? What are the type of tools used by Mesolithic man, and what are the places or sites where such tools have been found in India? Okay. Yeah, Gunjan will come to that. See, Gunjan is asking about ice age. So during the Paleolithic age, your major parts of the earth was covered with ice. We were in the Pleistocene epoch. That's called ice age. Okay, so during the Paleolithic age, we were in the Pleistocene epoch. Pleistocene means ice age. So the Paleolithic man lived during the ice age. So we'll talk about it. Don't worry, Gunjan. Just hold on. This is only an overview. I'm not going to go into 2 minute details. It is just to make you understand, kindle the interest in your mind about history. Generally, history is considered to be boring by students in school days, full of facts. So therefore, not very exciting to read. But then it is an interesting subject. It all depends, upon the student and also upon the teacher. So I'm trying to kindle some interest in the subject in your minds. So we'll move on here. So here, Mesolithic age. How was man's life in the Mesolithic age? How was it different when compared to the Paleolithic age? What are the type of tools used by Mesolithic man, and what are the sites or places where they have been found? So we'll study about that. Then we come to the Neolithic age. So what is Neolithic age, right? And Neolithic age is also called sometimes Neolithic revolution. It is also called Neolithic revolution. Neolithic revolution. So what did man totally do different in the Neolithic age? What did man totally do different in the Neolithic age? That the Neolithic age is called Neolithic revolution, right? So similarly, what type of tools have been used by the Neolithic man? What are the type of tools used? And where are the tools? Where are such tools found? Or the different Neolithic sites found in India, right? So Paleolithic tools and sites, Mesolithic tools and sites, Neolithic tools and sites, and how was man's life in each of these three stages: Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic. Clear? Then we come to another age, Chalcolithic age. Chalcolithic, stone copper age. Chalcolithic is stone copper age. So along with stone, copper was the first metal to be used by man. That's why it is called Chalcolithic age, stone copper age. Chalcolithic age or stone copper age, right? So how was man's life in the Chalcolithic age? How was it different from the previous ages? And what are the type of tools used by Chalcolithic man? And where are these tools found? Sites. Did you get me? So tools used by Chalcolithic man and sites or places where such tools have been found. This is your first chapter, Stone Age. Are you there with me, all of you? Clear? समझ में आ रहा है ना, all of you? You're able to understand. This is your first chapter. Very easy. Okay. So this is a Stone Age. We'll discuss that. When we come to the topic, we'll discuss. Hopefully, I should finish Stone Age today. Once I discuss all these topics. Then we come to the second chapter. On your screen, you can see the second chapter. That is Indus civilization. Indus civilization or Harappan civilization. So we go to the next chapter, Harappan civilization. Now, what do you study in this chapter? The Indus civilization. Yeah. Indus civilization. Okay. Yeah, that is there, Garima. Okay, what do you know about the Harappan civilization or Indus civilization? गरिमा says ये सर ये सारे तो हमारे बीए के फर्स्ट सेम के सिलेबस है. Yeah, Garima, but we go much beyond that. The level of difficulty, this is common. History is there in from your school days, but then the level of difficulty is different, right? So what is the reference point for all of you? The previous year question papers. So go through the syllabus of UPSC, then the previous year question papers, and then you'll be able to understand the level of difficulty of questions asked by the UPSC. Okay, so syllabus is there. Indus civilization is there in your school days, then in your BA, even in your MA, it is there. But how deep do you go in that chapter? And what is the reference point? The previous year UPSC question papers. Okay, people who live near Indus River, known as Indus civilization. Okay, great. So why I'm a first year BSc student? What is the confusion, Shailaja? It is just a overview I'm discussing. So there should not be any confusion, Shailaja. So Bronze Age, Pritham says Bronze Age. First developed human advanced urban civilization, says Hemalata. Very good. Nancy also says the same thing. One of the world's earliest and most advanced civilization. Civilization due to the effect of Indus River, says Kavya. Found in India, Pakistan, Afghanistan. So all of you know quite a lot about this topic. Okay, so listen up now. So Indus civilization. Now, what do we study in this chapter? So we'll first of all discuss about culture. What is culture? So I'll be discussing about what is culture, right? What is culture? What are the constants of culture? Then what is civilization? What is civilization? What is urban revolution? What is urban revolution? So I'll be discussing all these things. Then, of course, we'll be going to other aspects, the characteristic features of the Harappan civilization. As you know, all know, the Indus civilization ranks amongst the 4 contemporary civilizations of the world, which is the oldest civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization in Iraq. You know, the Mesopotamian civilization existed in Iraq, Mesopotamia, in present-day Iraq, on the banks of the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, isn't it? This is the oldest civilization, the Mesopotamian civilization, followed by the Egyptian civilization. The second oldest is the Egyptian civilization on the banks of the Nile in Africa. So on the banks of the Nile in Africa. Then the third oldest is the Indus civilization. The third oldest is the Indus on the banks of the river Indus and Ghaggar Hakra. So we have 2 rivers, river Indus and Ghaggar Hakra. And number 4 is, of course, the Chinese civilization. The fourth is, of course, the Chinese civilization. So it ranks amongst the 4 contemporary civilizations of the world, the Indus civilization. But then the Indus civilization is the largest amongst the 3, amongst the 4. Indus civilization is the third oldest. It is the third oldest. But when you compare all the 4, this is the largest amongst the contemporary civilizations. So what do we study in this chapter? We'll be studying about the characteristic features of this civilization. What are the characteristic features? As you all know, the Harappans, Mesopotamia and Indus were contemporary. That's true. Yeah, we will discuss about it, Ankush. Gunjan, I'm coming to that. Just hold on, Gunjan. I'll discuss about it. So we have a number of features of this civilization. We'll be discussing about the town planning. Harappans used to live in well-planned cities and towns. So here, all these civilizations. What is civilization? People are living in cities. Civilization means inevitably people are living in cities. But in none of the other civilizations, Mesopotamian civilization or Egyptian civilization or Chinese civilization, people were living in cities. They were living in cities, but those cities were not planned properly. It was very haphazardly constructed. Like in a slum, there's no particular planning. It is haphazardly constructed. So people used to live in cities like that. But here in the Harappan civilization, you have well-planned cities and towns following a particular pattern, a grid system or a chessboard pattern. We'll discuss about it. So then everybody had a toilet, everybody had a well. In every house, you have a toilet and a well. So Harappans gave a lot of importance to health and hygiene, cleanliness. So we study about the underground drainage system, the underground drainage system of the Harappans, town planning. Then what was their society like? Social life of the Harappans. So social life. Then economy. Under economy, we'll be studying about agriculture. We'll be discussing about agriculture, trade and commerce. Um, then, of course, small scale industries, small scale industries. As regards social life or society, we'll be discussing about the races who lived here, whether there was one race living here or a mixture of races. Social society of the Harappans, economy, then religious practices of the Harappans. So, how was the religion like? What are the type of gods or goddesses they worshipped? The religious practices of the Harappans, society, economy, religion, script of the Harappans. So, Harappans had a script, something about their script. We are not able to read the script, but we'll be talking about the script of the Harappans. Then, of course, we'll be talking about the burial practices. When somebody died, Harappans had three distinct methods of disposal of dead bodies. So they disposed of their dead bodies in a particular manner. So burial practices of the Harappans. Then what is a seal? Harappan seals. So what is the meaning of a seal? Okay. What was the purpose of these seals? Right. Then we'll be discussing about pottery, Harappan pottery, Harappan pottery. Then important cities pertaining to this civilization. For example, you have Harappa, the earliest city to be discovered was Harappa, right? What are the important artifacts found there in at Harappa? Then Mohenjo-daro. So we'll be discussing about Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro. So important cities like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro. Then, like for example, we have the Great Bath at Mohenjo-daro, the Great Granary at Mohenjo-daro. We have found the oldest bronze idol there, bronze image of a dancing girl at Mohenjo-daro. It's the world's oldest bronze image of a dancing girl found at Mohenjo-daro, and it is made of bronze. So Harappans had developed alloy technology. They knew how to mix copper and tin and make bronze. And what was the technique used by the Harappans? That is called lost wax technique, Sir Perdu method, or lost wax technique. So I'll be discussing about those things. So Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Lothal in Gujarat, where the Harappans had an artificial dockyard. And through the dockyard, they used to trade with various parts of the world, particularly Bahrain and Mesopotamia. So you have ships going to Mesopotamia or Iraq via Bahrain. And similarly, ships from Mesopotamia used to come to Lothal, to the Indus civilization. So there was trade and cultural contacts between the Harappans and the Mesopotamians. So we'll be discussing about that. So Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Lothal, Chanhudaro, Kalibangan. So many important cities we'll be discussing. What was the town planning? And similarly, before that, we'll be discussing about the origin of this civilization. How did this civilization originate? So there are some theories regarding the origin of this civilization. Similarly, we have the decline of this civilization. We have some theories regarding the decline. How did this civilization decline? So many theories are there. One theory says that the Aryans came and destroyed this civilization. But then, even before the Aryans came, this civilization was already on its decline. So let me remind you one more thing. I will be discussing Indus civilization in depth. And UPSC has asked two questions in the mains from this chapter, okay, particularly about the town planning of the Harappans. The one question was asked how the present urbanization has been influenced by the town planning of the Harappans. So something like that they have asked. So we'll be discussing about it. So here I will not be covering the town Indus civilization chapter in your art and culture. When we do art and culture, we have a topic called art and architecture. And in art and architecture, we will be discussing about the town planning of the Harappans, okay, so the economy of the culture of the Harappan society, economy, religion, okay, trade and commerce. All those things I'll be covering here only in ancient Indian section. I may not be covering this one in art and culture. Am I there with you, all of you? Can you raise your hands? So don't miss any class. I'll not be covering that in art and culture section. When I come to art and culture section, after ancient and medieval. Yeah, Shalu, the UPSC is asking some topics. They are asking questions even now from ancient and medieval. For example, last year we had a question about the society and religion of the Vedic period, and how is it similar to the present society and religion. Many of the practices of the Vedic Aryans, the Vedic society and religion is very many, even now we are practicing, we are following many of the practices in our society and religion. So what is the similarity they've asked? Last year mains. So you cannot say that UPSC cannot ask. They can ask you. Earlier they should not ask. They are nowadays asking. Right? So therefore be very alert. We'll come back here. Look at the study the previous year question papers. You'll get an idea. So we'll be discussing about this entire chapter: Indus civilization, right? Culture, civilization, urban revolution, town planning, underground drainage system, so on and so forth. And many of the practices of the Harappans, even now, many of the practices of the Harappans are followed by us. Many of the practices of the Harappans are even now followed by us. We'll talk about it when we come to this chapter. This is your second chapter. Did you get me? So first chapter is Stone Age. Second chapter is Indus civilization. Yes, Deepshika. Yeah. So be alert about current affairs, particularly what is coming in the news. Indian Express. Indian Express is a very beautiful paper. We have a UPSC section there. UPSC special explained. There's a column called explained there, or opinion is there. So when you click on them, you get so many topics, information on so many topics, including art and culture. So, so apart from Hindu, please read Indian Express, the new Indian Express, and your current affairs is automatically covered there very beautifully. Apart from whatever magazines Byju's provide, yeah. So, and of course, some magazines, competitive magazines, you please read them. That should be enough. So we'll come back here. So Stone Age, Indus civilization. Third chapter is Vedic period. So far so good, all of you. Hello, Stone Age, Indus civilization. Then we go to the third chapter, Vedic period. So let us understand this topic. Third topic, Vedic period. Okay. So yeah, be very selective, Deepshika. Deepshika is asking whether we have to follow both the newspapers. Be very selective in what you're going to read. From the UPSC point of view, you only read those things. You already know, I suppose, what to omit, what to eliminate, not read in the newspapers. Okay. So you be very selective. We'll come back here. So Stone Age, Indus civilization. Then we go to another chapter, Vedic period. The third chapter, Vedic period. Vedic period. 1500 to 600 BCE or BC. Yeah. Yeah. Tell me, what is Vedic period? Why is it called Vedic period? Anybody? Why is it called Vedic period? Flourishing of Brahminical religion, Godavari says. BC is before Common Era. See, Shailaja, BC is what? What is BC and AD? BC is before Christ. Right? Before Christ. Just hold on. BC is before Christ. And AD is what? AD is Anno Domini. Anno Domini. That is in the year of the Lord. Anno Domini in Latin means in the year of the Lord. In the year of the Lord. In the year of the Lord. What is the meaning of in the year of the Lord? In the year in which Lord Jesus Christ was born. In the year in which Lord Jesus Christ was born. So that is AD. Now, this has got a Christian connotation. Everybody in the world is not Christian, isn't it? So, therefore, since this has a Christian connotation, we use the word BC, before Common Era. Instead of BC, we use BCE, before Common Era. Before Common Era. Right? And AD, instead of AD, we use CE, Common Era. Instead of AD, we use CE, that is Common Era. Did you get me? Okay, so we'll come back here. Now, I'll use another page. So, Vedic period. Why is it called Vedic period? Just hold on. Many of you have answered it already. I could not read it. Just hold on. So, 1500 to 600 BC or BCE. Okay. Vedas were written in those period. Okay. Nancy, Vedic period, the rise of the Vedas and the different parts, the rise of popular rishis and philosophers. No. I am asking, why is it called Vedic period? Vedas were written in those period. Okay. Okay. Now look here. So most of you have answered this question rightly. I'm very proud of you, students. You have a lot of knowledge about history already. So I'm wondering whether I should teach you anything new. I wonder whether I'll be teaching you anything new. You already know quite a lot of things. Your fundamentals are very strong. So we'll come back here. Vedic period. So the main source of information for the study of this period are the Vedas. We hardly have any archaeological information. We hardly have any archaeological sources for the study of this period. So we rely entirely on Vedic literature for the study of this period, hence called Vedic period. So we rely on Vedic literature. We rely on Vedic literature for the study of this period, therefore called Vedic period. And hardly we have any archaeological sources, very less archaeological sources. If you go back to the previous chapter, Indus civilization, we have a script. The Harappans had a script, but we are not able to read that script. So what do we rely on? We rely on archaeology. We get some information about the Harappans from the Mesopotamians, because there was trade between these two civilizations, and the Mesopotamian script has been deciphered, unlike the Harappan script. So we get some information about the Harappans from the Mesopotamians. But generally, we rely on intelligent guesswork, conjecture. We rely on archaeology to reconstruct the history of the Harappans. But what about Vedic literature? We hardly have any archaeological sources. So we rely entirely on Vedic literature, and therefore this period is called Vedic period. Okay, now the next question is, who are the authors of the Vedas? Who are the people who compose the Vedas? Who are the authors of the Vedas? Deepshika says sages. Okay. Rishi, Yuksin. Okay. Shalu says Aryans. Ankush, Sapna, Jagabandhu, Vaishnavi, Brajneet. Okay. I may not be able to take all your names, but many of you have answered rightly. The authors of the Vedas are supposed to be the Aryans. So Aryans are the ones who compose the Vedas. So next question obviously arises: who are the Aryans? Who are the Aryans? People, Shalu says people near Ravi area. Okay, interesting. Brahmin, Megha says Brahmin. Godavari says migrated people. Okay, nice. Then Central Asia people, Sakshi. Then Preetham says high birth. Gunjan says Iranis. Sapna says came from Ukraine. Okay, interesting. Okay. So you know quite a lot of it. Come back here. So who are the Aryans? We are not very sure who these Aryans were. Among historians, there was no unanimity initially. Many of the historians said that they came from outside India. So some historians say that they were foreigners. Aryans were foreigners. And some said that they were indigenous to this country. Some said they were indigenous to this country. Now, so we'll be discussing about the various theories regarding the original homeland of the Aryans. Some said that they came from Austro-Hungary region, Austria and Hungary region. Some said that they came from Tibet. Somebody said that they came from Central Asia. Somebody said that they came from Germany. Okay, and so on and so forth. And then we have another group of historians who said that they were locals. They were indigenous to this country. They never came from outside India. They were indigenous to this country. So they were locals. Brahma Rishi Desha, Sapta Sindhu region, Kashmir and Himalayas. So different areas have been pointed out as the original homeland of the Aryans. But the consensus of opinion, understand this, the consensus of opinion among historians is the opinion given by Max Muller. So there was a German Indologist. Understand this? There was a German Indologist. His name was Max Muller. Max Muller. So he was a German Indologist. Now, who is an Indologist? German Indologist. Indologist is somebody who takes interest in India's history, culture, philosophy, religion, sciences, arts, etc. So there was a German Indologist called Max Muller, and this Max Muller gave the opinion that they came from Central Asia. He said that they came from Central Asia, and this opinion of Max Muller has been accepted by most of the scholars. Most of the scholars or historians have accepted this opinion given by Max Muller. The next question obviously arises, why did the Aryans come to India? If they were from Central Asia, why did the Aryans come to India? Right? Why did they come to India? So again, understand this. For resources, for grass, okay, interesting. What do you mean by grass, Brajneet? Can you be specific? They were shifting cultivators. Brajneet, they came for grass for what? Okay, cattles, pastures. Okay, very good. Nomadics. So nomads, very good. Gunjan, Gursharan, probably that's what, you know. Okay, great. Now look here. Interesting. Look here, very nice. So all of you know this topic well. So here, I believe the Aryans were living in this area. No, they were living in this large area called Eurasia. They were living in this large area called Eurasia. What is this Eurasia? That is that large area, Eurasia, that is from southern Russia to Central Asia. Southern Russia to Central Asia is called Eurasia. So they were living here in this large area called Eurasia, I believe. And what was their main occupation here? Their main occupation was pastoralism. They were pastoralists, that is, cows and pastures, grassland. They were pastoralists, that is, animal husbandry was their main occupation. So cows and pastures were their main source of wealth. Cows and pastures, grasslands were their main source of wealth. So basically, they were pastoralists. So we are told, understand this, we are told that around 2000 BC, there was a global change in the weather. So all over the world, I believe the weather changed. The population of the Aryans had increased in this area. The population of the Aryans had increased in this area called Eurasia. The population of their cattle had increased. And around 2000 BC, there was a global change in the weather. And there was a drastic depletion in the grasslands. And therefore, this area, Eurasia, could not sustain the Aryans and their cattle. So therefore, I believe the Aryans began to migrate to different parts of the earth along with their cattle. So Aryans began to migrate to different parts of the earth along with their cattle. One branch went towards Europe. So along with their cattle in search of fresh grasses or pastures or grasslands, they went towards Europe. They came to Ireland. They came up to Ireland. Okay. They came up till Ireland. Another branch went towards West Asia. So one branch went towards the west, another towards West Asia, that is Iran, Iraq, that area, the Fertile Crescent as it is called. So they went there along with their cattle. And another branch came towards India. Understand this? Another branch came towards India. On the way towards India, on the way as they were traveling towards India, they stopped in Iran for some time. From Iran, they entered Afghanistan and stayed in Afghanistan for some time. And via Afghanistan, they entered India. So that is the path taken by the Aryans from Eurasia or Central Asia. So they were living in this large area called Eurasia, but the nucleus was Central Asia. Basically, they were congregated there around the area of Central Asia. And from there, they went to different parts of the earth. One branch came towards India. Well, coming towards India, they stayed in Iran for some time. From Iran, they entered Afghanistan. And from Afghanistan, they came to India. Right? So we will discuss this in detail when we come to that chapter. Now, when they came to India, they lived for the first 500 years in a particular region. So I'll use another map here. So you see here, you have these rivers flowing. So there was this. So here we have a river called Sindhu, Satudri, Yamuna, and Ganga. So this is the Sindhu River. So they saw a huge river in the path of their migration. They had never seen such a huge river, a gigantic river. So the Aryans called this river as Sindhu. Next to Sindhu, you have another river, Satudri or Satluj, which they called as Satudri. This is the Satluj River. Then we have the Yamuna and then the Ganga. See, this is only for your understanding, not that the rivers are flowing in this direction, right? They will be flowing in other directions, but this makes it very easy for us to understand. So you have the Aryans, when they entered India through the northwest like this, when they entered India like this through the northwest, for the first 500 years, they stayed in this area. This is called the land of seven rivers. That is Sapta Sindhu region, the land of seven rivers. Sapta Sindhu region. How many years they stayed? 500 years. And only one book, so that is, they stayed between the rivers Satluj in the west or Satudri in the west. Satluj is nothing but, Satudri is nothing but Satluj. So they stayed for between Satluj in the west and Yamuna in the east. And for how many years? For 500 years. And only one book gives information about the first 500 years of the life of the Aryans. That is the Rig Veda. So from 1500 to 1000 BC, 1500 to 1000 BC, they stayed here for 500 years in the Sapta Sindhu region. And this is called, therefore, as early Vedic period. This is called early Vedic period, also called Rig Vedic period, because only one book gives information about the first 500 years of the life of the Aryans. Did you get me here, all of you? So they stayed for the first 500 years in that region called Sapta Sindhu region, the land of seven rivers. What are those seven rivers, etc.? I'll come to that later. Can you raise your hands, please? All clear till here? So they stayed for the first 500 years in the Sapta Sindhu region. And from the Rig Veda, what do we know? What do we come to know? We come to know about the geographical knowledge of the early Aryans. So what was the geographical knowledge of the early Aryans? Geographical knowledge about India when they came to this country. What was their political life like? So what was their political structure, polity like, society like? So how was their society organized? How was their economic life? Okay, economy and religion. What are the religious practices of the Aryans? So all this we come to know from the Rig Veda. Yeah, Europe and Asia, that is true. What is the question, Shalu? Sindhu area not live? No. The land of seven rivers. They were living here for the first 500 years in the land of seven rivers. What are the seven rivers? We'll discuss it later. So only one book gives information about the first 500 years of the life of the Aryans. That is the Rig Veda. Therefore, this period is also called Rig Vedic period. Now, what happened in these 500 years? Understand this. What was their main occupation in this area when they were living in the Sapta Sindhu region? They continued to be pastoralists. In search of fresh pastures, they had come to India. Okay. And they continued to do that occupation even in the Sapta Sindhu region. So they continued to be pastoralists. They continued to be pastoralists. Right? How has the name India come about? When I come to that chapter, we'll discuss. Right? Now what happened? In these 500 years, the population of the Aryans increased. The population of the Aryans increased in these 500 years. The population of their cattle increased. So in other words, the Sapta Sindhu region was not able to sustain the increasing population of the Aryans. So what did the Aryans do? They crossed over into a thickly populated area, a rather thickly forested area. So they crossed the Yamuna. They crossed the Yamuna in large numbers and they entered a thickly forested area known as the Ganga Yamuna Basin. So this is the Ganga Yamuna Basin. So by 1000 BC, understand this, by 1000 BC, they crossed the Yamuna in large numbers and entered a thickly forested area called the Ganga Yamuna Basin or Indo-Gangetic Basin. This is the Ganga Yamuna Basin. And by this time, that is by 1000 BC, they had discovered iron. So they had discovered iron by 1000 BC. So what did the Aryans do? They set fire to patches of the forest. So this was a thickly forested area, Ganga Yamuna basin. So they set fire to patches of the forest, and with those iron axes and implements, they cut down the forest and made it fit for agriculture. They made it fit for agriculture. So agriculture becomes their main occupation from 1000 BC onwards. So from pastoralism, they become agriculturists. And we have the other part of the Vedic literature. Other part of the Vedic literature, minus the Rig Veda, we have the other books: Samaveda, Yajurved, Atharvaved, Upanishads, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, the epics like Ramayana, Mahabharata, the Dharma Shastras or the Smritis, the law books of India. They're called Dharma Shastras or Smritis, like Manava Dharma Shastra, Yagnavalkya Smriti, Narada Smriti, Brihasmriti Smriti. All this come under the category of later Vedic literature. So the later Vedic books give information about the next phase of the Aryans, that is from 1000 BC. Understand this? From 1000 BC to 600 BC. And this period is called later Vedic period. Why it's called later Vedic period? Because the later Vedic literature, later Vedic literature gives information about the life of the Aryans in the next 400 years. So again, we come to, from the later Vedic literature, what do we know about the geographical knowledge of later Vedic Aryans? So how was it different from the geographical knowledge of the Rig Vedic Aryans or the early Vedic Aryans? What are the changes in the society or in the polity in the later Vedic period? What happened to the political structure in the later Vedic period? How was it different from the early Vedic period? Society, similarly, what are the changes in the society, economy, and religion? So here, please understand, the concept of a private property comes into existence. Once they took to agriculture, you have something called private property. So during those days, whoever clears the forest and makes it fit for agriculture becomes the owner of that plot of land. So the concept of private property comes into existence. And once they took to agriculture, what was the main occupation in the later Vedic period? Agriculture. So once you take to agriculture, you will not be roaming around. You cannot be banjaras, you cannot be nomads roaming around, You have to stay in one place. So once you begin to stay in one place to engage in agriculture, the concept of a territory comes into existence. Understand this? This is just about understanding this topic. So the concept of a territory comes into existence. Look here, for example, let us say this is a patch of a forest. This is a forest. This is a forest area, and here some people have cleared the forest. So let us say a person called A. He, along with his family members, relations, have cleared this patch of the forest. So this patch of the forest belongs to A because he has cleared the forest and made it fit for agriculture. Similarly, there are others here, B. There's another person here, C. There's another person here, D, and so on and so forth. So they're all living in this area, right? So here the concept of a territory comes into existence, and that is called Janapada. The concept of a territory comes into existence. They're all living in this area. So in the early Vedic period, they were nomads going from one place to another place. There was no concept of a territory. Now, the concept of a territory, Janapada, comes into existence. So in the later Vedic period, we have the birth of small states or kingdoms. So small kingdoms arose towards the end of the later Vedic period, right? So I'll explain that in much more detail when we do that chapter. So small kingdoms came into existence, and we have also cities, emerging towards the end of the later Vedic period. Hastinapur, Kaushambi. So cities came into existence. Main occupation was agriculture. The king began to collect taxes from the farmers. So the bureaucracy had expanded. He had a regular tax collecting machinery. The king was ruling over a particular territory. He had and bureaucracy had expanded, and he was collecting taxes. So because of that reason, we have the concept of a territory coming into existence, and cities also grew up. Trade and commerce flourished. And cities came into existence. So the next chapter obviously is Mahajanapadas and the rise of Magadha. Next chapter you can see here. This is Vedic period. Did you understand? Vedic chapter. So we divide into two parts. Early Vedic period. So Vedic period is from 1500 to 600 BC. 1500 1500 to 600 BC, which is divided into two parts: early Vedic period or early Vedic period or Rig Vedic period. That is from 1500 to 1000 BC, and later Vedic period, because we have the later Vedic literature which gives information about this period, that is from 1000 to 600 BC. So totally 1500 to 600 BC. This is your Vedic period chapter. And last year UPSC asked how was the Vedic society and religion, or rather they asked how many of the practices are similar to that of the Vedic Aryans, particularly with respect to society and religion. So there are many aspects of Vedic society and religion which are even now followed by us, even after thousands of years. So how is it similar? They had asked. So that was the mains question. So this chapter becomes important not only from the prelims point of view, but also from the mains point of view. Yava, Jaswant will talk about it. The main food was Yava, wheat and barley. We'll talk about it. Don't worry. The details, we'll talk about it. This is the third chapter. Did you get me? So this is your third chapter, Stone Age, Indus Civilization, Vedic period. Then we come to the fourth chapter, that is pre-Maurya period. Understand this? Pre-Maurya period, Mahajanapadas and the rise of Magadha, Persian and Greek invasions and their impact. This is the fourth chapter, pre-Maurya period. Pre-Maurya period, Mahajanapadas on your screen. Maha is what? Maha is large. Maha is large. Janapada is, I told you, territory or territorial state. Territorial state or a kingdom. Territorial state or a kingdom. Now, we have just now seen that towards the end of the Vedic period, so towards the end of the Vedic period, we have kingdoms coming into existence. So pre-Maurya period. Pre-Maurya period. This is from 600 to 300 BCE, 600 to 300. Pre-Maurya period. So pre-Maurya period is also called age of second urbanization. Understand this? Age of second urbanization. Age of second urbanization. It's also called age of the Buddha. Age of the Buddha. Or it is also called Mahajanapadas. Age of Mahajanapadas. Age of Mahajanapadas. Now, we have a Sanskrit book. Understand this? We have a Sanskrit book called, a Buddhist book called Anguttara Nikaya. So there's a Buddhist textbook called Anguttara Nikaya. And this book gives us the list of 16 states, 16 large states which came into existence during this period. In Sanskrit, they are called Shodasha Mahajanapadas. Shodasha Mahajanapadas. Shodasha means 16. In Sanskrit, Shodasha is 16. Maha means large. And Janapada means kingdom. Yeah, age of but popularly called age of the Buddha. You're right, Shalu, age of Mahavira also, but then generally called age of the Buddha. Both Buddha and Mahavira were contemporaries. And the more famous contemporary was Buddha. Out of the two, Buddha was more famous. He became more famous. Right? Right? So, Shalu, don't take that way. No, Janapada means here territorial state, where people said their foot means Janpad. No, the word Janpat wo nahi hai. I mean, what you are saying, don't divide the word into Sandhi and, make your own meaning. Here, Janapada is that territorial state or kingdom. Okay, Shalu? Right? So, we'll come back here. So, this Buddhist book called Anguttara Nikaya gives us a list of 16 states, Shodasha Mahajanapadas. Now, why is it called age of second urbanization also? Anybody? What is first urbanization then? What is first urbanization? You all know. Okay, fine. That is No, that is one way of putting it, Chalu. You're not wrong, but then it literally means state, territorial state. Indus Valley, very good. Age of second urbanization is Indus Valley, very good. Age of second urbanization. So here, age of first urbanization is Indus Valley, and for a period of 1,000 years after the decline of the Harappan civilization, we did not have cities in our country. We did not have cities in our country, and after a gap of 1,000 years, for the second time in our country, in our history, we have cities coming into existence. And the capitals of the Mahajanapadas, understand this, 16 states were there. The capitals of the Mahajanapadas became the principal cities of this period. The capitals of the Mahajanapadas. For example, we have Rajagriha, Pataliputra, Ayodhya, Kaushambi, Vaishali. So, Rajagriha, Pataliputra, Ayodhya, Kaushambi, Vaishali, Ahichatra, etc. So these became the principal capitals of this particular period, second urbanization. This is called age of second urbanization. Second time in our history, we have the coming into existence of cities. So we'll be discussing about about this aspect, the highlights of this period, important Mahajanapadas which came into existence during this period. Out of the 16 Mahajanapadas, understand this, out of 16 states which emerged during this period, 11 were monarchies and 5 were republics. 11 were monarchies ruled by kings. 11 were monarchies and 5 were republics. So here also you have a king, but the king was elected. So there was a parliament here. In the republics, they're called Ganarajyas. So they were republics. These were republics. The population was less in the republics. So the king was elected by the people, and you have a parliament which assisted the king in running the affairs of the kingdom. Whereas in the monarchies, all powerful person was the king. Right? So there were 16 states, out of which 11 were monarchies and 5 were republics. And out of these 16 states, understand this, out of these 16 states, one state becomes very, very powerful. That is Magadha. One state becomes very, very powerful. Magadha. That is akin to modern Bihar and Bengal region. So whatever we say Magadha, this Magadhan kingdom was spread over present regions of Bihar and Bengal. And whoever ruled from Magadha, whoever ruled over Magadha or from Magadha was considered to be the most powerful ruler of North and Central India. During those days, whoever ruled from Magadha was considered to be the most powerful ruler of North and Central India. And gradually we have the rise of Magadha. We have the early dynasties which ruled Magadha. We'll be discussing about that Haryanka dynasty, some of the kings who ruled the Haryanka dynasty like Bimbisar, Ajatashatru. So then we have other dynasty, Haryanka dynasty, Shishunaga dynasty, Nanda dynasty. So these are the early dynasties which ruled Magadha. And after the Nandas, we have the Mauryas who ruled from Magadha. So what was the capital of Magadha? Rajagriha and later Patliputra. So we'll be discussing about the reasons for the rise of Magadha. Out of these 16 states, why only Magadha became the most powerful? What are the various reasons for the domination of Magadha and the rise of Magadha? We'll be discussing that. Right? And the highlights of this period, age of second urbanization. Then you have the development of ring wells. Cities were founded far away from river valleys. Therefore, once a water source was found, they dug up a well, and wells came into existence, and also cities came to be, in course of time, developed around those wells, far away from river valleys. So we will be discussing about all these things. Pre-Maurya period, age of second urbanization, age of the Buddha, also called age of Mahajanapadas. So what are the reasons for the rise of Magadha? So you can see this chapter here, small chapter, pre-Maurya period, Mahajanapadas and the rise of Magadha. So what are the reasons for the rise of Magadha? And then Persian and Greek invasions and their impact. Yeah, Magadha was a monarchy. Yeah, you're right, Kavya. Magadha was a monarchy. So Persian and Greek invasions. So here, as part of this chapter, fourth chapter, we have Persian and Greek invasions. Persia is the old name of Iran, what we now called Iran. Those days was called Persia, and we have a dynasty which ruled Persia, the Achaemenid dynasty. So there was a dynasty called Achaemenid dynasty. Achaemenid dynasty. And the king of this dynasty, His name was Darius the First. Darius the First. In the year 516 BC. In 516 BC, this Darius, in 516 BC, Darius attacks India and he conquers a few parts of India. So what are the areas he conquers? Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, and Sindh. So he conquers these three areas: Punjab, Northwest Frontier Province, and Sindh. And the Persians, the Iranians or the Persians, ruled over this area for more than 200 years. They ruled over this area for more than 200 plus years. That was the name of the dynasty, Achaemenid dynasty, Kavya, Achaemenid dynasty. Achaemenid, Achaemenid dynasty. Now, the Persians ruled over this area for more than 200 years. Now, what we need to understand is whether this had an impact on our history and culture. Whether this rule of more than 200 years had an impact on our history and culture. If so, what? If so, what? It did have an impact. For example, you see, the Persians used to use stones in architecture. The Persians used to use stones in architecture. And they used to install pillars. They used to install pillars, just hold on. They used to install pillars like this. So this is, imagine there's a pillar. They used to install pillars like this. These are grooves. So these are made of stone, and there was a capital here. You have depiction of animal, either an animal was shown on top of their pillars, or a human being was shown, or a composite creature was shown. What's a composite creature? Mix of animal and human. So this is called a capital. The topmost part of a pillar is called capital. These are grooves. There were holes in these. There were small holes in these pillars. They were grooves. And they used to polish their stone pillars, which shine like mirrors. So you have these pillars which were made by the Persian kings. Either these pillars were supporting the roof of a palace, or they were installed on top of their palaces. So the Mauryas borrowed this idea of installing pillars and using stone from the Persians, particularly from the time of Ashoka. We have the Ashokan pillars, and on top of those Ashokan pillars, we have some animals. Okay, and there are different parts to an Ashokan pillar. We will discuss this. So the direct inspiration behind these Ashokan pillars was these Persian pillars. So the Mauryas borrowed the idea of using stone in architecture from the Persians, and they also began to install pillars. So this is one impact. There are other impacts. We'll talk about it. So Persian invasion and its effect on India. Did you understand? Hello, I dealt with all of you. So we were discussing that, and then we have one more: Alexander's invasion, Greek invasion on India. Yeah, NWF is Northwest Frontier Province. So Persian and Greek invasions on India and its impact. So when I say Greek invasion, whom do you think of? Whom am I referring to? Obviously, Greek invasion. Greek invasion on India. And what? Alexander. Sakshi says Alexander. Very good. So in 326 BC, we have a person called Alexander who comes all the way, winning everything from Macedonia and Greece up to the borders of India. He comes up to the river Bias. And there was a rebellion in his army. His soldiers and officers had been fighting continuously for 8 years. And they were homesick. They wanted to go back home. But then there was a rebellion, and there had been rebellions earlier also. Those had been violently crushed by Alexander. But this rebellion, was different. His soldiers were determined that they will not fight any further. They wanted to go back. So the man who had never seen any defeat had to turn back, and he went away. But they did this did this have an impact on our history? Alexander came up to the borders of India and he went back. Did it have an impact on our history? If so, what? That's what we're going to study. This is the fourth chapter, Mahajanapadas and the rise of Magadha and Persian and Greek invasions. Are they with me, all of you? Clear? So far, so good. Kavya, I just showed you a pillar, a Persian pillar, and I told you that the Mauryas also began to install pillars like that. But there is a difference between Persian pillars and the Ashokan pillars. When we do art and architecture, we will talk about it. But then the inspiration for using stone by the Mauryas was from the Persians. Are you there with me? So we'll take a small break, 5 minutes break you take, and we'll come back. 5 minutes break. Hello? Just take a 5 minutes break and I'll continue. Is it fine? Yeah, we'll be talking about it. We'll talk about it. Just 5 minutes break. Five minutes break. I'll write here. Okay. So leave on Iran slide. Seven to 7:15 is good. Roshan says 7 to 7:15 is good. So can we go on till 7 o'clock then? Hello, all of you students? No need of break now. Okay, 15 minutes का करो गुंजन. तो 7 बजे करेंगे क्या? 7 बजे जाएंगे break. All of you, is it fine? 7 o'clock? Okay, great. We'll go. Okay, fine. So on popular demand, Roshan, we'll go at 7 o'clock. Jaswant says 6:45. 7, I think 7 is fine. 6:45 to 7. 7 to 7:15. Okay, great. Yeah, class will be till 8:30. Okay, Garima wants from 6:40 only. Okay, 6:45 to 7. Is it fine, Roshan? If somebody wants to do namaz, Ramadan is very around the corner. People are doing roza. So some of the students, if they want to pray, let me know, please. So according to your convenience, we can have a break. Okay. Hello, all of you. Is it fine? Okay, 7 o'clock is fine. That's called a capital. Don't worry about it, Kavya. When we come to that chapter, we will talk about it. Don't worry. Okay, 7 o'clock. Okay, fine. We'll go at 7 o'clock for a break. 10-15 minutes break we'll take. Okay, we'll continue now. Okay, Gunjan, 7 to 7:15. Jayenge. Okay, so look here on your screen. So we have covered 4 topics: Stone Age, Indus Civilization, Vedic period, pre-Maurya period, Mahajanapadas and the rise of Magadha, Persian and Greek invasions and their impact. Okay. Now let us come to Mauryan Empire. 5th chapter, Mauryan Empire. Mauryan Empire. Now tell me, what do you know about the Mauryas? Mauryan Empire. Mauryan Empire. Hello? Mauryan Empire? Bindusara, Ashoka, okay. Chandragupta Maurya. Sakshi says Chandragupta Maurya, very good. Ashoka was the greatest. Chandragupta Maurya defeated Dhanananda. Okay, great. So Mauryan Empire. Now, you see, real Indian history is said to begin from the Mauryan Empire onwards. Why do we say this? Real Indian history or proper Indian history begins from the Mauryas because we have a number of sources for the study of the Mauryas. So Mauryas ruled from 321 BC, 321 to 184 BC, a period of 137 years. 90 plus 47 equal to 137 years. we have the first three Mauryas who ruled for 90 years. Who are the first three Mauryas? Chandragupta Maurya, then his son Bindusar, and then Ashoka. These three Mauryas ruled for 90 years, right? And then 47 years is the period of the later Mauryas. That is Ashoka's successors, sons and successors, ruled for 47 years. But then they were weaklings. They were not very capable men. And therefore, the Mauryan Empire collapsed like a pack of cards. Now, why do we say that real Indian history, real or proper history of India, proper Indian history begins from the Mauryas? Why do we say this? Because we have a number of sources. We have a number of sources. Go back to the previous chapters, Stone Age. We rely on archaeology, right? Obviously, we rely on archaeology. Then Indus civilization. We again rely on archaeology. And the script is there, but we're not able to read the script. And we get some information from the Mesopotamians. But then we mostly rely on archaeology and conjecture, intelligent guesswork. Vedic period, we rely entirely on Vedic literature. And we have derived conclusions. We have derived history from the Vedic literature. Probably this could have been the case. Probably that could have been the case. So exactly we cannot pinpoint. So we mostly get an idea about the Vedic life from the Vedic literature. So everything is not accurate. Pre-Maurya period, again, we do not have much information. But then from the Mauryan period onwards, we have a lot of sources. Both literary sources are there. Literary sources are there for the reconstruction of the history of the Mauryas. Archaeological sources are there. Archaeological sources. And among literary sources, we have both foreign sources, foreign writers, like Greek, Roman writers. Number of Greeks and Romans came visiting India during the Mauryan period and even after the Mauryas' decline. Like, for example, Plutarch, Justin, Arrian, Diodorus, Megasthenes, etc. So these scholars, Greek and Roman writers, they give us a lot of information about the Mauryan polity, Mauryan society, Mauryan economy, etc. So we have a lot of foreign sources. Then we have indigenous books, indigenous sources. And among the indigenous books or indigenous sources for the study of the Mauryas, the most important is the Arthashastra, the Arthashastra of Kautilya. Kautilya is also called Chanakya or Vishnugupta, and he wrote a book called Arthashastra. So from the Arthashastra, we get a lot of information about the Mauryan administration, various levels of administration, central administration, provincial administration, district administration, local administration. And we have also a visitor to the Mauryan Empire called Megasthenes. So Megasthenes writes a book called Indica. And from that Indica book also, we get a lot of information about the Mauryas. So we have copious sources, plenty of sources for the study of the Mauryas. Among the archaeological sources, the most important are the edicts of Ashoka. What are edicts? Royal messages. And Ashoka got his messages inscribed or written on the surface of rocks. So they are called rock edicts. Then on the surface of pillars, he installed pillars, and then on the top of those pillars, he got it inscribed, the messages. He also dug up caves. He got caves dug up and donated them to the Ajivika monks. And on the walls of these caves, who are these Ajivikas? We'll talk about it later. So on the walls of these caves, he got some messages written. So these are called rock edicts, pillar edicts, cave edicts. So we have a lot of sources of information for the study of the Mauryas. Therefore, proper or real Indian history is said to begin from the Mauryas. So what do we study in this chapter? We talk about the origin of the Mauryas. Who are these Mauryas? Now, how does the name Maurya come about? So we'll talk about the various opinions given by scholars, historians as regards the origin of these Mauryas. Who could have been these Mauryas? Then we talk about the political history of the Mauryas. Apart from the sources, we'll be talking about the political history, right? Political history like Chandragupta Maurya, who overthrew the Nandas. He killed Dharananda and established the Mauryan Empire, made Pataliputra his capital. He conquered everything from parts of Afghanistan to the river Narmada. So till central India, everything was conquered by him. From parts of Afghanistan to central India. He ruled for 24 years. And the concept of welfare state is from him. What is welfare state? That the government exists for the sake of its citizens. So we'll come to know that that the concept of welfare state was begun by him. So what are the examples? I'll talk about it later. How do we say that Chandragupta Maurya was the one who initiated welfare state? We'll talk about it. Then he ruled for 24 years. So he conquered all those areas from parts of Afghanistan to the river Narmada in central India, ruled for 24 years. And then we are told that there was a famine going on in Magadha. No, Patliputra was the capital of the Magadhan kingdom or empire. And there was a famine going on for 12 years. There was no rains. So you have a group of Jain monks who were migrating towards South India under their leader called Bhadrabahu. So Chandragupta Maurya gave away the throne to his son Bindusar. And then he came away to South India. He comes away to the present state of Karnataka to a place called Shravana Belagola. He comes to a place called Shravana Belagola, and there he lived for many years in a cave. He became a Digambar monk, and he committed Sallekkhana. What is Sallekkhana? Voluntarily giving up food until one dies. So very fascinating story of Chandragupta Maurya. He defeated Seleucus Nicator. Alexander had died. One of his generals was Seleucus Nicator. So Chandragupta Maurya overthrew the Nandas, later defeated Seleucus Nicator, married the daughter of Seleucus Nicator, and conquered everything from parts of Afghanistan to the Narmada. And then, after ruling for 24 years, he retired and went away to South India, and he died there. Then we talk about Bindusar, his son who succeeded him. He's supposed to have conquered South India. Bindusar. And then comes Ashoka, the greatest of the Mauryas, Ashoka. So we'll talk about his Kalinga War, the concept of Dhamma. What is Dhamma? Right? And what happened to the Mauryan Empire after Ashoka? And how did the Mauryan Empire decline and disintegrate and disappear? Right? And then, of course, about Mauryan administration, central administration, provincial administration, district administration. All these details are contained in the Arthashastra of Kautilya. How was the Mauryan society like? Economy, art and architecture. I'll cover it as part of art and culture topic. Art and architecture of the Mauryas. Right? So, and then the decline of the Mauryas. What are the various theories suggested as regards the decline of the Mauryas? Okay, so this is your Mauryan chapter. We will discuss about Arthashastra. Yeah, it is basically it was a treatise. It was a politico-economic treatise. The Arthashastra. It was a guidebook for the Mauryan king, and you have many chapters. There are 15 chapters, 180 subparts, 15 parts divided into 180 subparts. So, of course, it would be useful. Chanakya Niti, as it is called, the end justifies the means. So, he's called Indian Machiavelli. Machiavelli was an ancient Greek scholar, ancient Greek scholar, historian. He writes the book called Prince. And in that book called Prince, Machiavelli said that whatever the prince does, whatever the king does for the welfare of his subjects, hook or by crook, if the people are happy and comfortable, then it is justified. The means are justified. So the king can adopt any methods or any means, even unfair means, to see that his people are happy and comfortable. So therefore, Kautilya or Chanakya is called Indian Machiavelli because he also had the same belief that the means doesn't matter. The end is important, and the end is the welfare and prosperity of the kingdom and its subjects. Okay, so therefore, it's called Indian Machiavelli. So we'll talk about it. So this is Mauryan Empire, right? The fifth chapter in your ancient India syllabus. So fifth chapter. Then we come to post-Maurya period. Post-Maurya period. So let us talk about this post-Maurya period. That is what happened after the decline of the Mauryas. Post-Maurya period. A very interesting chapter this is, post-Maurya period. Post-Maurya period. 200 BC to 300 AD. A period of 500 years. Now, don't take my map seriously. So please don't take my map seriously. I have never, got it right. But then I will draw something like India's map. Okay. Right. So this is India map. Right. Now we'll come back here. Who are the successors of the Mauryas? Now understand this. What do we study in this chapter? What are the various topics we study, subtopics we study in this chapter called post-Maurya period? A period of 500 years. Now we have the last Mauryan king. Understand this. Who was the last Mauryan king? A person called Brihadratha. Brihadratha. This Brihadratha was very, very unpopular. And he had a Senapati, commander-in-chief. His name was Pushyamitra Sunga. His name was Pushyamitra Sunga. So, very ambitious general, Pushyamitra Sunga. And Brihadatta was unpopular as a king. So, what did Pushyamitra Sunga do? In front of the army, in front of the Mauryan army, Pushyamitra Sunga killed Brihadatta and ended the Mauryan dynasty and established the Sunga dynasty. So, we study about the Sungas. So, Sungas succeeded the Mauryas in the north. So, we study about the important Sunga kings like Pushyamitra Sunga, Agnimitra, etc. Sungas were succeeded by the Kanvas. Another dynasty called the Kanvas succeeded the Sungas. Right? So we study about Sungas and Kanvas. Then in the down south, in South India, we have the Shatavahanas. Shatavahanas who succeeded the Mauryas. So they were feudatories or Samant under the Mauryas. Once the Mauryan Empire declined and disintegrated, Shatavahanas proclaimed themselves independent. Right? So we'll study about Shunga dynasty, the Kanvas, and the Shatavahanas. And Shatavahanas are sometimes also called Andhras. They're also called Andhras. So we study about these three dynasties, important Shatavahana kings. They ruled for 460 years. Shatavahanas ruled for 460 years continuously. They had many capitals under 30 kings, 460 years continuously under 30 kings. Right? Now, this was the period when we have some foreigners coming into India and establishing kingdoms. Now, I have given you a small note on Arthashastra Kavya, Anjali. So, what is what are the various topics Arthashastra deals with? So that should be sufficient for the exam. As a book, as of now, has the subject expert is telling. There's no time to read Arthashastra now in detail. But then, whatever is relevant from the exam point of view, it is there in the PPTs. Mauryan chapter PPT, it is there. So it will be shared with you. Don't worry. Now we'll come back here. Now this was a time when we have some foreign dynasties who entered India, and they established kingdoms. Foreign tribes came into India and established kingdoms. Now understand this. The coming of these foreign tribes coincided with the construction of the Great Wall of China. So imagine this is China here. Okay. So this side is China. This is China here. So China is here. Now from ancient times, Chinese emperors had a big headache. What was the headache? Central Asian tribes. Tribes from Central Asia. Central Asia, many parts of Central Asia is a cold plateau. You cannot engage in agriculture throughout the year. So for a few months in a year, it is very, very cold. Therefore, you cannot engage in agriculture. In that season, in the off season, the Central Asian tribes who were fierce horse riders. So they used to enter into China and engage in loot, plunder, and rapine. It was a big headache for the Chinese emperors. So what happened is a series of Chinese emperors began to build a wall. They began to build a wall. And this wall came to be called the Great Wall of China, as you all know, the Great Wall of China. And this wall was completed around 220 BC, around this time in the post-Maurya period. This was completed, the Great Wall of China. So it became very difficult for the Central Asian tribes to enter into China because of this wall, the Great Wall of China. So the coming of certain foreign tribes into India coincided with the construction of the Great Wall of China. So instead of going into China, many of the Central Asian tribes, in other words, came to India. Now the first to arrive were the Indo-Greeks. The first to arrive were the Indo-Greeks. Now understand this. The Indo-Greeks are also called the Bactrian Greeks. They're also called Bactrian Greeks. Now look here. When did Alexander come? Alexander came in 326 BC, isn't it? Alexander came in 326 BC. Right? Now, what was his ambition? What was the ambition of Alexander? To conquer the entire earth, to conquer the whole world. And he couldn't have done it without the help of his officers and soldiers. Now, do you know what is the incentive he gave? Do you know what is the incentive he gave his soldiers? They have left behind their families, in Macedonia, in Greece. They have left behind their families, children, etc. And they are with him. And this fellow was literally a mad fellow, you know. After every campaign, every conquest, he would want to go further and then conquer another kingdom and then another kingdom and so on and so forth. So there was no end to his campaigns. And he kept on, you know, forcing his soldiers and officers to move forward and to conquer the next area, so on and so forth. Now, what was the incentive he gave? Every new area conquered meant a new a new female for his soldiers and officers. He encouraged them to establish relationship with the local women of that area, right? So every new area conquered, he will encourage his soldiers and officers to have a relationship with the local women of that area. So wherever he went and wherever his army went, they brought death, destruction, rapine. And this was a standard feature. This is the way he, encouraged his soldiers. But then the soldiers had it enough. 8 years they had continuously been fighting. They were homesick, and how much ever he forced them, at the end they said they don't want to go further, and there was a rebellion, and he had to turn back. Now, many of the Greek soldiers and officers who were part of Alexander's army did not go back with him. He turned back and went away, but many of them did not go back. Where did they stay there? They stayed in northern Afghanistan. Understand this. No, they stayed back in northern Afghanistan. They married the local women of that area or had a relationship with the local women of that area. And in Greek records, northern Afghanistan is called Bactria. Northern Afghanistan is called Bactria. So the Greeks who stayed there in northern Afghanistan came to be called Bactrian Greeks. So the first to enter into India, how it happened, I'll tell you later, the details. The first to enter into India were the Bactrian Greeks. Did you understand what I just now told you? Hello, all of you. So once you understand this, it becomes very easy. Clear? So the first to enter into India were the Indo-Greeks or the Bactrian Greeks. They were the first to come into India. Their greatest king was Milinda or Menendar. We'll talk about it. Milinda or Menendar. Then the second to come to India were the Scythians or the Shakas. The Scythians or the Shakas. They were the second foreigners to come to India. And you have 5 branches of the Shakas. 5 branches of the Shakas. One branch ruled over parts of Afghanistan, present-day Afghanistan. Another branch ruled over present-day parts of Pakistan. Another branch ruled from Mathura in UP. And 2 branches ruled from Madhya Pradesh, Ujjain and Mandsaur. These were the capitals. Present-day Ujjain, and the other was Mandsaur or Mandsaur in Madhya Pradesh. So 5 branches of the Shakas. So Shakas were the second to come. The third to come were the Parthians. They were from Iran. Parthia is northern Iran. So they were basically from northern Iran, the Parthians. And the fourth to come to India were the Kushanas. The fourth to come to India were the Kushans, one of the Central Asian tribes called the Kushanas. So this is a sequential order in which these foreigners came to India. And since they were foreigners, they brought with them their distinct culture and way of life. They brought with them their distinct culture and way of life, and influenced our history and society. For example, I'll just give an example. We have the Bactrian Greeks, who came along with Alexander. These Greeks, they used to worship Greek and Roman gods. Like, for example, Apollo. They used to worship Apollo. They used to worship Zeus. These are all Greek and Roman gods. And they used to depict their gods in murtis, in huge idols or images. And in those idols and images of their gods, they are shown with mustache and beard, well-built, robust physique. Their gods have well-built, robust physique. They're tall. They have a mustache. They have a beard. Now, in course of time, these Bactrian Greeks became Indianized. They married the local Indian women. They began to worship Buddha, right? Or some of them began to worship Krishna. And then they began to depict Buddha as a Greco-Roman god. So here Buddha was shown as a man with a robust physique or well-built physique, with a mustache and a beard, with long flowing robes. So in northwest India, what is now called Afghanistan, in that region of Kandahar, those days called Gandhara, a distinct school of art came into existence, known as the Gandhara art. The Gandhara art. Did you get me here? So in northwest India, we have the Gandhara art. Gandhara is old name of Kandahar, what we now call Kandahar, Kabul, Kandahar, nowadays called Kandahar, those days called Gandhara. So we have the Bamiyan Buddhas also. The Taliban, about 20 years back, 25 years back, when the Taliban were new, they blasted the Bamiyan Buddhas. About 40 feet tall Buddha idols were there in the Bamiyan mountains. So in Afghanistan. So they blasted and destroyed them forever. So this is the Gandhara art, which existed in northwest portions of India, present-day Afghanistan. Similarly, we'll be talking about the Mathura School of Art. All these topics will be covered as part of art and culture. These schools of art, Gandhara art, Mathura art, Amaravati School of Art, etc. I'm just trying to give you a broad picture of history, ancient Indian history. Okay, so Bactrian Greeks. So they influenced, they were responsible for the Gandhara School of Art. The Sungas and later the Kushanas promoted the Mathura School of Art. And down south, the Shatavahanas promoted the Amaravati School of Art. Amaravati art or Amaravati School of Art. In the present day, the valleys of the Krishna and the Godavari, we have certain places like Nagarjunakonda, Goli, Gantashala, Jaggayapeta, Amaravati. So in all these places, we have the so-called Amaravati School of Art, which flourished. So we'll be talking about these foreign dynasties, foreigners who came into India. In this sequence, Indo-Greeks or Bactrian Greeks, the Shakas or Scythians, the Parthians and the Kushanas, important kings of these dynasties. For example, the greatest of the Kushana kings was Kanishka. And Kanishka conducted the fourth Buddhist council. He was the person who hosted the fourth Buddhist council, which took place at Kashmir. So important aspects of their rule we'll discuss, right? Are you there with me? Now, so we'll be studying about the indigenous successors of the Mauryas, Sungas, Kanvas, Shatavahanas. We'll be talking about the foreigners who came to India, as I just now mentioned, Greeks, Shakas, Parthians, and Kushanas. And also down south, I'll use an eraser so that I can make some space. So we'll be studying about the three schools of art also. And then we'll be going down south. Down south, we have the three Tamil kingdoms. Understand this? The three Tamil kingdoms, the Cholas. We'll be talking about the Cholas, the Pandyas, and the Cheras. Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas. So Gandhara is Kandahar. Gandhara is Kandahar, Kavya. Now, how do we come to know about these Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas? We come to know about these three Tamil kingdoms through a literature which has come to be called Sangam literature. Sangam literature. And these are called Sangam kingdoms. So what is the meaning of Sangam? I'll tell you later when we come to that chapter, Sangam literature. And so basically Sangam was an academy. Sangam was an academy or a parliament which took place at Madurai. That was the capital of the Pandyas. We have the famous Meenakshi temple at Madurai, isn't it? So at Madurai, there was a academy of scholars in the Pandyan court, or a parliament of scholars in the Pandyan court. And the body of literature these academy of scholars created is known as Sangam literature. The main theme of Sangam literature is the wars between these three Tamil kingdoms. Wars between the Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas. So the main theme is that wars between Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas. But from the Sangam literature, we also come to know about the political, social, economic, and religious aspects of the Deep South. So how was the polity, how was the society, how was the economy, how was the how were the religious practices? We come to know all about the Tamil kingdoms from this Sangam literature. So we'll be talking about that. And also we have one more thing I need to discuss, that is the megalithic culture. Understand this, megalithic culture. So we have in Stone Age, we will be discussing Paleolithic, Mesolithic, Neolithic, Chalcolithic. So down south, here in south, we have a distinct culture called megalithic culture, which came into existence. So I'll be talking about megalithic culture. What is this megalithic culture? Mega means what? Large. Mega size, mega, large. Lithic is stone. So large Stone Age culture. Large Stone Age culture. What is this megalithic culture? We'll talk about it as part of this chapter. And apart from this period, the post-Maurya period is called the Mercantile Age of India. It is called the Mercantile Age of India. India had flourishing trade with various parts of the world. India traded with West Africa. via the sea, no, via the Arabian Sea. She traded with West Africa, West Asia, including the Roman Empire. Via the Bay of Bengal, she traded with Myanmar or Burma, and then via the Indian Ocean with Indonesia, Malaya or Malaysia, that area, Southeast Asian countries, and also with Maldives, Lakshadweep, Sri Lanka, and also China. So India had flourishing trade with all these countries, and we have the monsoon mechanism, the mechanism of the monsoon, which was discovered. As you all know, monsoon is a seasonal wind. It blows towards India in a particular season, and by June 1st, it touches the Kerala coast. So we are a country dependent on monsoon, and unfortunately, in many parts of India, we are having a drought-like situation, shortage of water, etc. So here we have had a deficit monsoon. So this is a country which is dependent on monsoon, and this mechanism of the monsoon was first discovered during this period. So we have an Egyptian Greek sailor. His name was Hippalus. Egyptian Greek sailor called Hippalus in 46 AD. He noticed that in a particular season, winds are blowing towards India, and it brings rains to India, right? And once this was discovered, we have ships coming to India in the monsoon season because it was easy to sail. They just have to adjust their sails. The wind gets trapped in those cloth, the sails, and then it will push the ship. And they just have to maneuver the ship and come to India. And we have a number of foreigners who began to come to India in the post-Maurya period, in the monsoon season. Why did they come? They came for spices, cotton textiles. And on the west coast and east coast of India, we have ports. Many flourishing ports came into existence, both on the west coast and east coast of India. And we have foreigners coming to pick up spices like pepper, ginger, cardamom, nutmeg, cloves, cinnamon, etc. And also cotton textiles. So you will also be studying about, as part of this chapter, the various countries with which India had trade relations, including the Roman Empire. So what are the items of export? What are the items of import? And important ports on the west and east coast of India, right? This is your post-Maurya period. Are you there with me, all of you? This is post-Maurya period. Mercantile ages, India had flourishing trade via the sea. Kavya, India had flourishing trade with various parts of the world. And one more thing you need to remember as part of this chapter, we have the Silk Route. We have the Silk Route, which travels through northwest portions of India. Silk was, the world is following the Chinese method of making silk. What was the Chinese method of making silk? What is the Chinese method of making silk? You see, Chinese, they used to rear silkworms, and then they used to feed the silkworm with mulberry leaf. That's the only leaf it eats, the mulberry leaf from the mulberry plant. So the silkworm starts munching day and night mulberry leaf. And what does it do? Within a few weeks, it puts on huge amount of weight. And it starts weaving a cocoon around itself so that it can go and sit inside that. What the Chinese would do is they'll take this cocoon, which contains the silkworm, and they'll put it in hot boiling water. The worm dies, and then they'll extract silk. This was kept a secret by the Chinese. They never revealed this to anybody. And they would make silk fabrics, and there was a lot of demand for this silk textile, silk fabric, and raw silk in Europe. And a route came into existence, a silk route, a 10,000-kilometer silk route, starting from China, traversing through parts of Central Asia, then northwest portions of India, and all the way going to Kashgar. And a traveler, a silk merchant, will travel for some distance. He cannot travel 10,000 kilometers, isn't it? So he will travel from one market to another market, let's say 50 kilometers, 100 kilometers, and then he'll sell his ware. He'll sell his silk, and then he will come back. He will sell it to another merchant, and that merchant will take it to the next kasbah or a market town, and he'll sell it there for profit. And so on and so forth, like a relay system, this would move. And this silk route passed through northwest portions of India, and the Kushanas were ruling there. And the Kushanas used to control the silk route. They would block the silk merchants, and they will extract taxes from them, collect gold and silver coins as taxes from the silk merchants. So as a result, a lot of gold was flowing into India. Gold and silver was flowing into North India. So we'll talk about the Silk Route later. So all this is part of your chapter called Post-Maurya period. Sungas, Kanvas, Shatavahanas, okay, foreign tribes who came into India, Bactrian Greeks or Indo-Greeks, the Shakas, the Parthians and the Kushanas, then the Tamil kingdoms, which we come to know through the Sangam literature. So we study about Sangam age, and the three Tamil kingdoms, Cholas, Cheras, Pandyas, important kings, and what was the polity, society, economy, and religion in the deep south, the megalithic culture, the large Stone Age culture which existed mostly in South India, and of course the mercantile age of India. This is your this is your post-Maurya chapter. Are you there with me? So this is your. Then we'll take a break now and go back. We'll take a break and come back in about 15 minutes. Hello, is it fine? Just take a 15 minutes break and come back. Am I allowed to give you a break, 15 minutes, or is it 5 minutes? I don't know. I'm not sure. This is the first time I'm doing evening batch. Yes, sir. Yeah, 15 minutes is okay. Okay, fine. Carry on. 15 minutes break. Now it is 6. Now it is, we'll meet at 7:10, 7:11, 7:10. We'll meet at 7:10. Carry on. I hope it is interesting. I hope it is interesting. We'll be studying all these things as part of ancient India. So we'll come back after a break. Okay, thank you.